Good evening, everybody, afternoon and morning, wherever you may be. This is the Impact Communities the Easy Way, which is a curriculum question and answer free webinar for anybody that could be interested in our Insight to Wellbeing curriculum. Maybe you want to know how we're using it, how it came about, how you would use it, what's it all about, or you may have other questions. So all questions are welcome. We'll try to answer them. I am here with my co-facilitators, Emma Wilkins and Derek Mason. And Dazzle is our tech guy. So it's lovely, lovely, lovely to see you all. So I thought that I would start with a little bit of an introduction of how the curriculum came about and what we're doing with the curriculum. And then really for most of the session, it's over to you guys. What questions have you got? What would you like to be answered? And we'll shape it in that direction. Is that all right? Good. So I have been around the principles for 12 years now. And I was fortunate enough to end up, first of all, in a community, in a recovery community, recovery from addictions, and work with people who were suffering in that way. And then to be able to be involved in delivering programs, wellbeing, resilience programs into prisons. And I'm old school, is what I like to say. So I have learned from the OGs, the original gangsters. I've learned from them the sit around in a circle and conversation style of sharing the curriculum. And I love that. I love that. It's a very effective, beautiful way to have conversations. And I still do that. And the team of people that I work with have their own practices as well. And we still do that in other ways. However, over the years, I also struggled with the people who aren't in our inner circle. So the prison people or the decision makers or the people with money, they were all the funders. They all wanted form and they all wanted some sort of proof. So in the early days, I would show up and say, they'd say, well, how do people change? And I'd say, I don't know, I have a conversation and they change. And, you know, why don't you just accept that? But actually, in this day and age of forensic psychology and all the other psychologies, CBT, etc., they wanted much more form than that. So they first of all wanted evidence, and they second of all wanted preferably accredited programs. So play a program that is proven that it's delivered in a certain way and there'll be a certain impact. I'm assuming a certain amount of knowledge here of the three principles. So if that assumption's incorrect, then shout out and say to me, I don't know what you're talking about, and we'll get that covered up as well. So along the way, I developed a methodology, a way of working, and a curriculum. Really, it was written on one piece of A4, but it had 10 sessions, and because that's how we created the prison program, it needed to be originally 12 sessions and then 10, and some content in there of what I might run. What was really interesting is in the early days, one of the things that I did was train a lot of other facilitators, and there are people on here who fall under that category. And some of those facilitators went on to work elsewhere. So Anna Debenham emigrated to Portland, Oregon, and started working in the prison system in Portland. And what I didn't realize is she took the curriculum that I had and she used it there. So, you know, fast forward a few years, we've evidenced our programs now. We have research papers, peer-reviewed research papers. We've worked with hundreds of people. We're seeing impact. There's case studies, there's social return on investment, and so on and so forth. And still I was working in an old school type way. And then in 2018, in actual fact, in 2018, my good friend Brooke, who is the CEO of the Spark Initiative in Florida, who work with children and had a curriculum already, is a technical writer. So she had already designed and developed a curriculum, and her team, for working within schools, and they were working with people on that. And she kept saying to me, let me write your curriculum for you, let me write your curriculum for you. And I was a little bit worried, because a piece of paper isn't the thing that changes a life. An insight changes a life, right? And I didn't want to lose the essence of that. However, after talking to Brooke and talking with Anna and realizing that Anna had adapted our 10-week program and was using it in her prisons, we decided to get together and write a curriculum between the 3 different organizations. And I was just looking through that curriculum earlier, and I had forgotten, I wrote the foreword in here about our partnership, and I'd just like to read that to you verbatim from the curriculum. Beyond Recovery, the Insight Alliance and the Spark Initiative are all organizations that share a vision for what can be achieved when human beings wake up to their true potential, regardless of their circumstances. We came together because of the alignment in our individual missions to work with people who are at the fringes of society or who are vulnerable due to their backgrounds. We believe no human being is broken, nobody needs fixing, and no one should be left to suffer when that suffering is caused by a simple misunderstanding of how the mind works. Our mission, our partnership on this curriculum, is more than just an endeavour to expand this work to others. It is a meeting of minds and souls to change the face of human suffering through compassion, listening, and equality. When I read that earlier, I was immediately reconnected with the curriculum and the reasons why we did it. So I'll answer any other questions about that. But fast forward, we created the curriculum. We obviously wanted to pilot it. So I took a group of facilitators into prison with me, and we started using the 10-week program. And the feedback that I got from, I think it was 6 of you guys, the feedback I got was, it's really nice to have something, a framework to hang our conversations off. It's useful to have different modalities. So it's not just conversation and auditory, but there's visual, there's exercises. It appeals to people who are kinesthetic, people who are more visual, people who maybe have diagnosis of ADHD and can't sit still and need to move around a little bit. There's lots of, it's very layered, and it's layered to be able to meet all of that criteria, with the essence running through it that we're all pointing in the same direction. And then the other feedback that I got was that anybody who's ever been impacted by this understanding, and it happened recently to somebody that I was working with, immediately says, we must tell everybody and we must do it all now. And they all try and tell everybody. You know, ever been there? Anyone else been there? Yeah, right. You know, we've got to tell them everything now. And we really, really, really want to impart what we've just seen, this mind-blowing thing that's just happened to us, to other people, because we want to stop people from suffering. And the feedback that I got was that it's so helpful to pace yourself. And that's what the curriculum does. It allows people to slow down, to teach one bit at a time, to share one bit at a time, to work at the pace that you want to work at, or the group wants to work at, without having to try and get everything in 10 weeks that you have maybe learned over a longer period of time, or try to keep talking about the same thing and struggle for ways to talk about that. So it provides the framework. The just comes from you, but the framework's useful. And so we tested it, the facilitators loved it. We've tested it online. We've worked between the 3 organisations. We've worked with people in prison, male and female, different ages, different populations, different diagnoses. We've used it as a 10-week program. We've used it as a 3-day program. Some of the facilitators on this call use bits of it in their own coaching. We've used it between us with people that have been involved in sex trafficking, with people who have been home insecure, with business people, with families who are impacted by these marginalized issues, and so on. So across the board, this particular curriculum does say it's a curriculum for the criminal justice system. However, the people who've developed it, which includes Derek here on the call and Al, have gone through this and seen that there are only a few places where prison or criminal justice system is mentioned. So if people want to use it with a different sort of population or a different environment, then it works just as well. And I think that Emma has found that out in your practice, haven't you? So it's been thoroughly tested. It's been revamped, restyled, tried, and so on. So that's the curriculum part. And I just briefly want to talk about the community or the movement part as well. So I love this curriculum, and it's got everything in it. It's got theory of change, it's got how to use it, it's got lessons, it's got resources and so on. But what's really exciting to me is that we are creating a community of people who can support each other. I've worked in this field for a while now, as I said, for 12 years. And whilst there is a lot of love and camaraderie, I have felt as though there's a lot of silos. So if one person wants to go and set up a group with home insecure people, they're not then meeting with all the other people who want to set up those groups and sharing best practices and enabling each other, and everybody's rewriting their own theory of change. Everybody's rewriting their own curriculum. And I feel as though if we really want to share this with the world and we really want to end human suffering, then we have to get more cohesive and more together. And that's why this excites me, because the curriculum is a community of people. So everybody that we've trained already, and that includes individuals, as well as organisations, people that Insight Alliance have trained, people that Spark have trained, all meet monthly on a monthly webinar and share wherever they're at, what they're doing. Things like we've worked with an organisation in New York, the Practice of Peace, I think it's called, and they're about to start a pilot with 50 people in a residential, and they wanted to know how do they evidence that. So we're able to connect them in with our research team and get some standardized evidence in, so that we're all evidencing and it all can go into a big pool and we can all improve as we go along. So, and resources. So for instance, I had someone write to me today to say they're going to put together a flyer for their program, and could they look at the flyer that we use, and of course we will share resources and so on. So that's enough for now from me. This is your time and your floor. Let's hear from you. What questions do you have? And Dazzle, can you keep an eye on the Facebook group in case there's any questions in there? Thank you. Has anybody run programs in their communities already? Or prisons? Kenny, what are you doing in Sweden? Is it you and Alistair?
Yes, me and Alistair, we are actually our old colleagues. We're doing, yeah. But for the moment, I'm working in a Swedish municipal as a coach. So I work for the social welfare, helping people get out and find a job, and so like a job coach for the moment. And I've been with the principals for about 10 years, so I can see in my conversations, I always have it with me. And sometimes I go in and coach with the principals, and I teach, not teach and teach, but I mean, I share the principles. And but I can also see now that it's really beneficial. Like I can notice that even if I don't share it, I can notice it's beneficial for me as a coach to have the understanding. Of course, you can meet persons and you can see like beyond behavior, beyond history or whatever it is, and I have noticed that only that can make a difference, that you could connect. Brilliant. But but for the moment, actually, I'm trying to set up a program so I can understand what you mean with that they want it to be evidence-based and everything. So and we have some programs we already work with within the municipal, and it's like EPS, you know, the EPS, individual placement and support. Have you heard about it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It is actually evidence-based, how to help people with from the beginning, actually, people suffering with the psychosis and schizophrenia, and it's developed in the 60s. So it's more like a program for the whole organization, how to work together and how to cooperate between the medicals and between employers and everything. So it's more like a system like that. But I can see the benefit of bringing the principles in as a part of it to help people to have that. And then, because the other thing is more organizational, but it is actually also to believe in the client 100%, to believe that the client has all what it needs already. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that's and that's what I can see is the beneficial part about Beyond Recovery, that you already creating this evidence-based and everything. So my question now is more about how to make it into Swedish.
Yeah.
In that way. So.
Yeah, that's good. We need a translator then.
So yeah.
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 Okay, that's really good.
Thanks.
Emma, do you want to talk a little bit about how you're using the curriculum with your individual clients?
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of different things I do. One, so Derek and I have just started running a group together, which is really nice. So we're using the curriculum for what it's designed for as such. And that's been really cool to kind of see how that's all building, because it's iterative and sort of all builds on top of each other. But also within my coaching, I do a lot of one-to-one coaching. And since I did the curriculum training, I've just seen how I mean, I think Jacqueline said this earlier, it's a universal curriculum. It literally applies to anyone and everyone. And there is always something in there that is relevant to what they're talking about in a session, right? In most cases. So I quite often find myself sort of referring back to different exercises in there. So I might draw something up on a flip chart, or I'll talk about an analogy that's in there also. But there's always bits and pieces that I can pull from that curriculum that just add a different level of understanding to whoever I'm with, because it, like Jacqueline was saying, there's different layers in it, and it speaks to different ways that people learn. So I find that really helpful, and it's just nice to know that there literally is something in there for everyone. The other thing, just listening to Kenny just now, and what I really, I suppose, resonated with what you were saying. I was looking to do some work with a school. It's gone a bit quiet at the moment, but they need to make a load of changes on their special educational needs. And I get the impression that they're quite a disorganized school, but they're really keen to bring in some element of well-being into the school as well. And they recognize that actually the two things go hand in hand, that the more resilient their team are, the more enabled they'll be to take on the recommendations that have been put in place for their special educational needs. So, I mean, I've sort of teamed up with a lady who does the special educational needs side of things, and I can provide the well-being, and that works really nicely as well. You can just see how these things just come together. And as soon as someone is more grounded, as soon as someone can see their health, they're much more capable of taking on the bits and pieces, Kenny, like you were saying. They're just in a better place for it.
Yeah.
So I really like that side of it too, that you can feed it into other things.
Nice. Yeah, that reminds me of some conversations that I've had recently about some issues about officers. The prison system is going to lose a lot of staff, or is losing a lot of staff. And so the prison service is undergoing some difficulties. And actually we're looking at, exactly to both your point there, is that if we work with the staff, so it's sort of the trainer with the staff, but it helps them get grounded and get secure in their well-being and their resilience, regardless to whether they're actually running a program or not, they're going to have a different attitude on the wing and in that prison, which will automatically lift the level of consciousness in the whole place. So yeah, it's a really good point. Dazzle, you have a question?
Yeah, it's more to do with what Emma has just said. So I know Kenny was referring to an actual different language, but when you said language, Emma, I presume you were referring to English speakers, and even using the same language, the terminology can often be a stump because people get caught up and hung up on certain types of words, and other words might trigger a negative thought process or whatever it is. So have you found that the curriculum has really helped to find a base of terminology that helps people to not get hung up, or is that what you were meaning?
Yeah, so I think when I was referring to language, it's a bit like the different ways that people learn. So some people like to listen, some people like to practice stuff, some people are, they want to see things up on a board or write things down. So that's what I meant by language. And also, yes, to your point, there is a, by going through the different sessions, it allows a group of people, or even the one person that you're working with and me, to build a common language between us, so we can start to explore things in the same way with the same terminology. Because just because the way that the exercises are built, it opens up that dialogue.
I like that. Derek, do you want to talk a little bit about how you're finding it? Because you're old school like me, and then you've obviously been running it on our online programs, but just more recently getting to grips with it more in a more tangible way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I've done it in the curriculum basically in many different forms, Mama J, in this embryonic form from Only, when it was just like it's a loose sort of format. That's how I learned it, and then that's how I sort of delivered it. And then to, like you said, the broken down version of the VIP, and then other things that we do, which is basically loosely based around it. So then to actually go into a curriculum-based facilitation group, I thought I would need the booklet loosely, but very, 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 very loosely. Like you said, I helped design it, so I thought I got everything covered in there already, and I might need to refer to it every now and again. But I'm facilitating it with Emma, and Emma's been brilliant as well. And when I'm trying to do my little free flow thing and just trying to flow in it, Emma would ask a question directly out of the curriculum, and it would sort of cut through everything what I've said, and it'd be like, wow, I should have asked that question. Like, where did she find that question from? And then when I start to look into the curriculum, it can work with me just knowing as much as I need to know from it and sort of take what I need in that moment, because it might not have been a time for me to share, but to know that there's a question in there that could cut through that and speak to that actual moment. I know that I've actually, after lesson 2, last week on lesson 3, I actually tried to stick a bit more firmly to the curriculum. And I think it went all right, but it didn't steer me off. I read all the curriculum exercises and the facilitator's notes, and it was all pointing me in the direction of where I was going to go anyway. So that made me feel a bit more comfortable to sit with it. But when I say it went all right, obviously there was no disasters in my head, and I haven't gone into thinking mode, thinking that I messed it up. So it must have worked. So yeah, that's personally what I found. That shocked me. That surprised me, because I know Emma was like facilitating it, and she wanted to sort of stick to the progress, stick to the curriculum. And I sort of in my head saw that and thought, bless her. I'm off on my free flowing route and we'll just work together. But then I've had to look back and say, no, maybe I do need to tether myself a bit more to it and just take as it comes, because I've got the other side where I can flow. But if I was to tether myself to 100%, I know that it would have me at every corner and every thing. Because when I was reading it a bit more intricately, it sort of tells you, do a reading at the beginning, and then we've got 3 recommendations at the back. So it never sort of leaves you to say, what do I do now? There's always a little guide what sort of helps you step by step. And I found that amazing when I saw that. And even when I checked in with Emma and I told her what I saw, and she checked, each reading is exactly designed for each facilitation group. So it's not just giving you a bunch of readings and pick one. No, it's giving you a set that are designed to go with that bit of component. So yeah, I find it really good, and I really trust in it.
Nice.
I think that's what that's what goes from beginner to expert. It goes both ways. If you trust in the curriculum and trust in yourself, then the two of them come together, and yeah, the trust will be reflected back at you. That's all you see. So
I
yeah.
like that. And could you speak? Sorry, Emma.
I was just going to ask if I could add to what Derek was just saying. So yes, the reason I wanted to stick to the curriculum is because I was still quite new to it. But the other thing is I can see how it's literally each session is designed in a certain way to kind of to have a flow that, you know, it facilitates that sort of desired outcome at the end of the session, really. But what I do like about it is if you don't do it in that order, you can still get through it all and you can still cover everything. It's not strict. It still has that flexibility to it. You know, it gives you the suggestions on how to run it. It gives you the suggestions on what resources to use, but it's not, you must do this. It's there to show you, I think, the best way to do it, but it's, you know, you can still make it very much your own.
Yeah,
that's what I like about it. I mean, we have, I think Derek and I have very much put our own spin on it whilst following the curriculum, and I like that. I think it doesn't become this something that you just, you know, it just
regurgitates.
Yeah.
I love that, because what I was going to ask Derek was about is when we run the virtual impact programs, I've been, we set up our briefing calls, and I've been saying to the guys, oh, okay, right, we're on session 5 and it's about listening. So which bits will you do? Which bits will you do? And we'll all choose a bit. And then I think we've run four of those programs, and then the guys go off, and their job is to reflect on that lesson and that session that they're going to run from their own perspective. So they could follow the curriculum, absolutely, because it's all there if they needed it, but the training is focused on bringing it out of you, so that that's why Derek's now, after running four programs and working in prison with us, is saying, oh, actually I've owned, and he designed the curriculum as well, and he's actually now saying, oh, yeah, I'm now reading it, it's quite good, this is. So it's good that it has that combination of, it's all there if you need it, but really it's what's coming from you and your spin and your take, and you don't have to follow every session.
Do you know what I get from that one, Jan? I think, because this is the first one I've actually done labeled the curriculum, I think every single one I do after that will be totally different. And that is where a lot of the learning will come in as well, not to stick to it, because it is about between the lines, just like what Emma said, it does give you that flexibility to hear a reading and think, oh, this will go well with that component. And then just, because you're feeling that in the moment, or you're feeling that, and that's how you see it. So that's what should fit. So I don't think any two programs will look alike. That's how I think I would. And even though I'm trying to do it from stick to it as much as I can, I still don't think each two would look alike. And I think that's a lot of learning there as well in each one. It's like you never really know it. You never, but you trust in it. And that's what we need. Yeah.
And it is there as a guide, isn't it? As a prompt, you know, like a writer's prompt, a prompt for you to consider, what do I see about that? What can I share about that? So Al is here, and he also has, and he's put his hand up. There you go, look at that. And you also helped design the curriculum, Al, and I just wondered if you wanted to share anything.
Yeah, I was thinking actually when you first started talking And then it kind of touched on it as well. It was a background question, so I thought I'd ask it. When we were in the prison system, we often used to ponder about what it would be like to offer the principles in some way to the management system, to the people that look after the people that we were trying to they were our end users. And I just wondered if this system has been used in that way, because I know that occasionally, I haven't read it for a while, but occasionally a bit of it pops into my head and I think to use it, and I'll recognize it from there. You know, it kind of like, some of it just gets so absorbed into the way that I work now that I probably couldn't tell one from the other. But actually, occasionally there are bits, and I just think there's no way I would have come up with that. Oh, I know that it came from Mama J. So yeah, so that was my question really: is this suitable for people that are working with businesses and management structures?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did allude to the fact that it does say criminal justice system on the front, and there is a few bits of language in there, to use the word language, that does refer to that population, but they're few and far between, and they're easily transposed. And we use it. So I'm also co-founder of another organisation that works with businesses, and we use elements of the curriculum within that structure. Also, the guys and I and Emma all went to teach an organisation in Scotland called No Knives Better Lives. Now they're going to use it with the populations that we love to work with. So they're going to pilot it in Polmont Prison and other organisations. But you could see that they were being impacted. You know, the whole point of day one is to impact the trainers and have the trainers have insights themselves and realize their own well-being. And I can definitely see, and we've talked about this a lot, as to whether to write a whole separate curriculum for businesses, or just use what we've got, and it might go in that direction. But we really see how it's useful with management, with teams, like talking about working with the officers in the prison system right now. So, you know, we can't get in. So actually, if we work with the staff and we help the staff learn how to deliver it, the staff are going to be impacted themselves. And then their delivery is going to be even better. So yeah, it works on every level. And we've also noticed that a little goes a long way. So our massively truncated version is what we refer to as our distance learning program. So we took the curriculum, we truncated it down, we sprinkled some lived experience into that, and we send those workbooks into people who are still incarcerated, and they have never met a person. They only get booklets and then some correspondence, and they get impacted, and they come back with insights, and they come back with freshness that you think, wow, how does that work? So it's imbued, if you like, with the feeling, and I think it works with everybody regardless to the language. And as we go, it will be updated. So part of the license that gets bought when you buy this curriculum is to be involved in and receive any updates. So if we do, and because we're all using it, all 3 organisations are using it, and everyone that we've trained are using it. In fact, in the UK here, Beyond Recovery has a curriculum group. So we keep in touch with, it's not just UK, it's anybody who wants to be in there who has learnt the curriculum. So we keep in touch with each other so that we can support each other and create that community, and that's ongoing. So that means that if there was a session or section that got outdated, then everybody we would address that, and then everybody would get that new version. And I really like that, because that's the way I, you know, as you know, Al, that's the way I worked in the prison anyway, iterating the program. Does this impact? If we do it this way with these people, does it impact more or less? And that's why we've been dedicated to research. You know, how does it impact? Why does it impact? What are the variables of making it impact? And then being true to that and iterating our programs to constantly improve. Did I answer your question? I felt like I sort of rambled a bit there.
You definitely answered my question. Thank you. Yeah.
Come back to you, Rachel, and Maureen's got her hand up.
Hi. Jackie, I just come on. I wasn't sure what it was about. It just was beyond recovery and community thing. But I get the gist, even though I haven't read the curriculum. Now, I'm a bit old school. I just duke and dot and dive about everywhere and do a bit here, there, everywhere. But the thing that's going in my mind actually really concerns me with the whole thing, criminal justice system and addiction and the whole thing that's going on to try and turn people's lives around. It's kind of like east-west, Hames best. And what I've been finding actually with some of the people I've been engaging with, and I'm just a volunteer, I've been doing this for a number of years, I just self-educated with it all, but there's loads of opportunities provided for things, you know, to engage with other things, but people are still going back to chaotic homes because folk haven't got the skills. So I'm going back, I'm down to just now at my son's for 3 weeks for a rest, and I've got a kind of project in my head called Back on Track, and it's to take people actually and assist them in their homes, not like the typical support worker, do you know what I mean, kind of thing, that you go in. And I think in recovery from addiction and criminal justice system, we should have recovery teams. Do you know what I mean? We should build some sort of curriculum or some sort of structure where when people come out of addiction, come out of prison, you know, they get assisted with decorating, they get assisted with things. Somebody maybe goes and helps them to cook and all that sort of stuff. So what we're going to do actually is we can pilot, and it's no complicated. We've called it Back on Track. Just help folk take stuff to the dump, clean their houses up, take all their old crap out their lives and actually replace it, and kind of coach them actually with things like just cooking. You know, I'll stay with you for an hour and show you how to make macaroni cheese. I'll show you how to clean something. I'm 64 and I'm really domesticated. And I find a lot of folk actually, we can have all these things, and I know it's really important to talk ourselves well, do you know, but it's practical skills. I don't think we're doing enough practically with people. And we can give them all the care and attention and service and sessions and things, but we must build something round about them on the outside. Do you know what I mean? Using people with lived experience, strong people with lived experience to actually, you know, I've been working all lockdown, community volunteer with people in the community, and then I carried on with a gentleman actually, and I've changed his life. Just changed his diet, went to shop and changed his diet, showed him stuff, you know, and he's transformed. Just taking that extra time, not just to listen, to actually help people practically. And there's one lassie said to me, I don't get paid for any of this actually, I'm not bothered about it all, but one lassie said to me a few weeks ago, I'd love you to come in, Maureen, and just show me how to make a pot of lentil soup. So we need to get away sometimes from all the intellectual stuff as well, and remember, you know, east, west, Hames best. We can do all we want to do out with somebody's own home, but if they've got their own home to go back to, do you know what I mean? And if we can make people's homes comfortable and skill them up as well, you know, with really good sound practical skills, by having folk standing alongside them painting the wall, or I'm hoping to go in and clean out the kitchen cupboards and find out, you know, there's all these food banks, and I've been working in food banks now, so it's a 15 solid year. There's some people not got wooden spoons, there's some people not even got pots and pans, to actually check people's lives, do you know what I mean? And help them, do you know what I mean? make sure
Yes.
they've got cooking stuff and everything.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
I'd like
great
to see
point.
them.
Uh-huh.
I
Great
just
point,
wanted to add that.
No, I think it's a great point. And I'm very grateful for people like you that do that. And I think there should be more of it. It's a really, really good point. But I am going to I am going to suggest that one of the reasons that people transform when you work with them is because you believe in them. Yes, the practical skills help, and yes, you are showing them this and that, but you actually believe they can. And that is felt. When you go and work with those people, they feel you, and you're transforming that into practical situations. But if you were doing that without actually believing in them, they wouldn't be learning those things and they wouldn't be transforming. So it's both, right? You have to come with that feeling that you've got for people and for the hope that you feel for them, and so on. And then the passion.
That's why I want to do it, because you can't, people do respect me and I do have a relationship and connection. But if I'm working within a really, really kind of strict protocol, I can be myself with them, and they know that. So they know it's a knowing. So I've got their trust, and it's just like, we just work together. So the thing is, as well, I'm going to have this discussion in August with the heads of departments and stuff, because I'm just frustrated with services. That I used to be a home carer many years ago. Like, if somebody needs me for a week, need me for a week. But if somebody needs me for 10 weeks, I'll go for 10 weeks. I can give them a personal tailored service and work with the person to see what they actually need. I can't work to time constrictions, because if you've got that quality and that passion, that relationship with them, you can work out your two selves. So we need to have the flexibility built into systems, like thingy, that allow folk, some of the home care systems, you've got 15 minutes, half an hour. I would not work as a support worker under any other umbrella. I'm going to work freelance.
So I'm going to rein it back in a little bit, Maureen, because we might have some. I know that we've got a question from Rachel there, but thank you so much for being here. Rachel.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm a little warm. I've been very warm.
Yeah, likewise.
I see there's a training next week, 26, 27, 28. Is that's still on?
That is
still on. Register for it?
Yes.
Can you just tell me a little bit about, I see it starting time. I don't see an ending time. I'm just curious about kind of what the day looks like. A little bit more about what the training entails.
Yeah, please. Great. Yeah, of course you can. Great question. Thank you. So the training is over 3 days. On the 26th and 27th, the hours are 3 p.m. UK time to 9 p.m. And that's because we often have people from different parts of the world, so we cater for that. So on the 26th and 27th, Tuesday and Wednesday, it's 3 p.m. till 9 p.m. And on the third day, Thursday, it's 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. So we finish early. It's designed as, on the first day, is very much a leveling of the playing field. So we might have some people who have been around, some people have been on this training who have met Sid Banks. So, been around a long time. And we might have some people who haven't been around very long at all. So there's a leveling day where Derek and Emma will be running it with me. So we'll be running it together, and we'll talk in depth about the curriculum. We will demonstrate the curriculum by actually running some of the sessions with the whole group. And we will have conversations to elicit insights and to see where people are at in their grounding with things, because one of the most important things is to ensure that people know that they put their flavor on it, they bring their experience and understanding and everything else. And that's what actually, that's the just of the curriculum, is the person. So we make sure that everybody gets that and understands that, and we do that through, as I said, through actually running some of the sessions, and lots of space and time for questions and so on. And there's a lunch break or dinner break and so on as well. All the sessions are recorded because they then go onto the portal that people get access to once they've signed up. So then on the second day, everybody should have access to the portal. They're able to download their own version of the curriculum. They're able to see everything that's on there, all the resources and so on. So we do a little session just running through that, making sure that everybody's comfortable and can get in and can get access. And most of the rest of that day is spent in, we separate people into little teams. They learn a session and then they feed that session back to the group. So let's say there is a session called Brewing Thoughts. Your team would go off, you'd learn about brewing thoughts, you'd read that part of the curriculum, you'd discuss together how you're going to run that session. And then when we all come back together, you would run that session for the group. And it's not scary. So at that point, there's no, oh, you did that wrong or whatever. It's purely to enable you to have experience run it. Nobody can get it wrong. You run it how you run it. You'll add your own flavor, you'll interpret it in some way. You might ask questions, or some people might ask you questions and so on, but it's very, very friendly and nice. So spend all of the second day doing that. And sometimes if there's a lot of people, we might spill that over into the third day. And the third day is really bringing it together, any best practices, sharing where people are using it, where other people are using it. We finish with a couple of little sessions that we'll do for you, and Q&A really. So have I missed anything, Emma or Derek? No. Does that make sense, Rachel?
It does. It sounds great. I like that. It sounds like you do some of the sessions and then you get 3 or 4, however many groups there are, that many sessions. So it sounds like you might actually get to experience most of the sessions in person at that time.
Yeah.
I really like that.
It's pretty much how it's designed.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that there's a monthly call. What's that?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that? Or
So,
when it is? I'm just trying to like project ahead for myself. Go ahead.
Yeah. So then there is a monthly call, which is on the 3rd Monday of the month, I think.
It's the 2nd, I think. We had one.
Might
2
be the
weeks ago.
2nd.
Yeah, we had one 2 weeks ago.
Okay, 2nd Monday of the month at 4 p.m. UK time. And that is hosted by one of the 3 organisations. So we hosted the last one, Beyond Recovery. The next one will be hosted by Spark, let's say, and then the one after that will be hosted by Insight Alliance. But we often all jump in together anyway. So when we hosted ours, we had some of the fellas from Insight Alliance turned up as well. And that's, and you can go to every single one. And that is to come and share with like-minded people, bring any questions or queries that you've got. People are at all different stages. So like I say, that what on the one before last, people were saying we want to research it. So we were able to sort of point them in the direction of how to get the research. On the last session, we talked a lot about how people are doing different things. So different people are using Brewing Thoughts in different ways, and so sharing that. So it's really whatever comes up in the moment. But then in addition to that, and this is a added extra, we don't know how long we're going to keep this for, but we've got a WhatsApp group as well that we're also maintaining for anything that comes up in between. So I noticed some of my mentees felt a bit alone. You know, we've got someone up in the Wirral, for instance. She's just started a group. She'd get a little bit heady just before group and want someone to speak to, and the next monthly webinar is not for another 3 weeks. So we started a group so that we can share those little worries or insights or breakthroughs, and build that sense of community and sharing. And all the webinars now are being recorded, so they also go onto the portal. So the portal that you get access to when you download your curriculum has those resources. So sometimes, you know, when you've done a training and then you think, yeah, but I can't remember this bit, you can always go back to it and review it, and review other trainings, because we might have done it differently at that point. So I feel like there's lots of resources and materials available. We're obviously really happy as well as Beyond Recovery to share our papers, our evidence, our research papers, so we can share that with our curriculees. I don't know what you would be called. Is that all your questions, Rachel? Nice, brilliant. See you next week. So, nearly coming to the end. Sorry, Reese, you've just joined us right at the end there. Any final thoughts, questions, comments, feedback, compliments? You're a quiet bunch.
I think everyone's suffering with the heat.
I know. That is true.
Could I just ask, are the details of the training online? Do they have online?
They are, Arthur, but what I'll do is, you signed up for Eventbrite, didn't you? Yeah. I will send a link to this recording and the details of how to sign up in an email following this. So you'll get that. But if you've got any questions, just reach out to me, and or one of the team, and we'd be very happy to help you.
Lovely, thank you.
Might we see you next week?
Yeah, if I'm still alive, yeah.
Well, let's hope for that.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on this hot, sticky Tuesday night. It's really been nice to see you all. Lovely to see you, Al, and everyone else, of course. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.